We're talking about the murders of Spencer and Monique Tepe. What happened and who likely did it? And if so, what drove him to commit murder after over 10 years of being divorced from Monique? I'm breaking it down today with two of the best in the business, Áine Cain and Kevin Greenlee of The Murder Sheet. This is Strong Enough. I'm your host, Claudia King. I'm so excited to have Áine and Kevin from The Murder Sheet here with me again today. How are my lovely friends doing?
Oh, we're so great, Claudia. Thank you so much for having us.
We're so thrilled to be here with you. Thanks for giving us this opportunity. We always love talking with you. You're wonderful.
Thank you. I think you guys are wonderful. I fell in love with you before we met, which is creepy, but it's fine. But getting to know you guys has been such a treat because I love you as humans, but the way that you cover cases is impeccable. It truly is. Like, you really dig in and find the truth.
Thank you so much. That means a lot coming from you.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Well, if there's anybody that has not seen your previous episode of Strong Enough or does not already watch The Murder Sheet or listen to it, which they should, will you just share a little bit about how you two came to be?
Yes, and it sounds sort of like either a Dateline episode or a Hallmark movie. I'm not gonna lie, but
It does. A combination.
Some red flags there, but it all worked out. So don't worry, we're here. Neither of us murdered each other, but we are a married couple. I'm a journalist and Kevin's an attorney. And we met in a rather unusual way because we were both looking into this Indiana cold case, the Burger Chef murders. And
I'd become friends with a detective who'd worked on the case. And he said, you should go to newspapers.com and see who's clipping articles about this case, because maybe they have some sort of involvement. And so I went to newspapers.com, and the person who was clipping the most articles about this case was some young reporter from New York, which I thought was pretty suspicious.
Kevin said, "This is my wife now." No, I'm just kidding. That didn't happen that quickly. We connected. I was looking into the case for Business Insider, and we connected. He kind of very kindly gave me his Rolodex of contacts in the case. I reached out to them, did an article, and then after the article came out, we just sort of stayed in touch and got closer and closer and closer, and then sort of figured out we're not just obsessed with this case. We're also obsessed with each other, as in romantically. And kind of had this embarrassing realization of like, oh no, we fell in love over a murder case, and then got married. And then we had a podcast. So Kevin, after a while, convinced me to do a podcast. I was a little bit scared too. I don't always love putting myself out there, and I was nervous of like, what if we do a bad job? And I'm really glad he succeeded in that because it's been a lot of fun. And we try to take a really nerdy approach to our show and to the way we cover cases, try to be as meticulous as possible and, victim centric as possible. And we do a lot of different cases, a lot of different types of things. Some might say we're unfocused, but we like the word eclectic. So there's something for everybody, hopefully. And that's kind of what The Murder Sheet is getting nerdy about true crime in different formats.
I love the nerdy aspect because I am also a nerd at heart. I went to nerd school, as we call it, in North Carolina. So I'm here for all the nerding out and spreadsheets and databases. I'm here for all of it.
Yeah, that's where The Murder Sheet comes from. I have a weird spreadsheet with like 700 entries of all restaurant homicides, which was our initial focus. And you're very kind to call it a database. I'd say it's more of something that could probably be used to like indicate that I'm insane. Like if someone actually looked at it, like what are all these color coded? Like what is happening here? But I like to make lists. I'm not a very organized person, but in that way, I like to at least kind of lay everything out. And also I love looking at crimes where sometimes I think you've probably run into this, Claudia, where it's like people are like, this is unprecedented. How could something like this happen? And then you look in history and you like find a bunch of instances like, well, here's a similar case. Here's a similar case. Here's another one. And it can kind of inform you about the new case.
I love a good callback. Let me tell you, I am constantly, when talking about a case, and I'm like, wait, there was something that happened before, and I'll find it real quick and throw in the callback. So I love a good callback. and I love the color codes. So we could probably spend the entire episode talking about successful online dating and spreadsheets, but we're not going to.
Newspapers.com, folks.
Yeah, we're going to talk about murder because that's what we all really love. Not murder itself, but you know.
We got you.
You got me. Spencer and Monique Tepe is what I want to chat with you guys about today. For those who aren't familiar, do you guys want to share a little bit about this case? And then I know you have some kind of cool insider information that we'll get to shortly.
Yes. So this is a case that absolutely breaks my heart because I feel like Spencer and Monique Tepe for me really like embodied like a love story. And, as someone who's, my marriage and husband are very important to me. It's like I feel like these two people were wonderful and found each other and we're building a beautiful life together, and to have it cut down in the way that it was just breaks my heart. So I'll give some background on the victims first, just to kind of set up who they were and what was lost from this. Spencer was 37. He was a dentist. He'd gone to Ohio State University, and he was just a very friendly guy by all accounts. People found him extremely gregarious, generous, very energetic, and just seemed great. I mean, loved the Bengals, loved the Buckeyes football. He was just a great guy. And he was married to 39-year-old Monique Tepe, who was she had gotten, I think she'd studied early childhood education at OSU as well. Very warm, very patient, very kind, according to the people who knew her, and was just very loving. She was a stay-at-home mom at that point, caring for their two small children. They were 1 and 4 when this happened. And they're just even the nicest people. They got a golden doodle. I mean, and they're they're just lovely. I mean, they seem like the kind of people you could be friends with. And they're living in Wineland Park neighborhood of Columbus, Ohio. And, in this kind of like bigger upscale, kind of like newer looking home. And I mean, by all accounts, when you talk about that, it sounds like they have a charmed life. Sounds like things are going great. But unfortunately, things did not continue to go great. At some point in the very early morning hours on Tuesday, December 30th, 2025, Monique and Spencer were both murdered in their home on the second floor of their home, both shot multiple times. I believe Spencer was shot 7 times. Monique was shot 9 times, once at close range. So they're murdered. Their dog and their 2 children are left unharmed. But this starts this kind of murder mystery of like, who killed this lovely couple?
And I think obviously anytime someone is killed, that's a huge tragedy that deserves all of our attentions. But the fact of the matter is that sometimes when we look at crimes, maybe we pay a bit more attention to it if we think to ourselves, this could be us. And when you hear about this particular case, there's no obvious risk factors there that were readily apparent. These are just 2 ordinary people with their child and their dog living a typical happy life in what seems to be a safe neighborhood. So how could you not look at that and not think this could be me?
Yeah, and we're going to find out stuff as we talk about this and unravel it, that it really shows it could be anyone because many people have similar experiences.
That's what's so scary, because this was the all-American couple or family, with the white picket fence and it just, a great job and stay-at-home mom, like seemingly perfect from looking outside. So this investigation begins. What do police find initially, or what do they start tracking that leads them in a direction?
Yeah, they find, first of all, that there's no firearm at the scene, so they're not finding the gun. They're also noticing no signs of forced entry that they're initially seeing. And this is all reported in the press early on. So they got to be wondering like what exactly happened here. It's very clearly not a murder suicide. So not what people in the house are not perpetrators. It's also not like the entire family was killed. The targeting was of Monique and Spencer, particularly Monique, because she shot more times and including at close range.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as one very important clue that ends up being extremely important later on is that, as they do in all modern day police investigations, police immediately start a canvass for surveillance footage and trying to figure out, are we seeing anyone doing anything weird around the time where we think they were murdered, which I think they estimated 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. So they kind of start with this net. They're looking at what they can find. And they get footage, and it's chilling. Like, if you've seen it, it is so creepy to me.
It is.
Yeah, like, it just, I don't know. Sometimes you see things and you're like, oh, you wouldn't really necessarily think anything was wrong. But this is one of those things, like, I get a pit in my stomach when I see this video. And I'll try to describe it just for folks who have not necessarily seen it. You see this kind of snowy alleyway, and this is kind of a basically, if you've ever been in one of these things, it's like a roadway behind this set of bigger houses with their detached garages there where people are parking their cars. And I've been through a lot of places like that in Indianapolis, where we're from. So like, I totally recognize this whole setup, but that's kind of what we're looking at. And you see a lone male walking from the right side to the left side. It looks like a male to me. It looks very clearly like a male. And you see head down, hood up, and hands in the sweater pockets. And it's like very snowy out, because remember, this happened in the winter. Dark shoes, lighter pants, dark hoodie. And at one point, one hand reaches up and sort of touches the hood part of the sweater. And I remember at the time I said, this could not be relevant. It could just be some dude who happened to be in the area. But I mean, it seemed pretty clear from the way police released it and sort of said, we want to know who this guy is. What was happening with this? It seemed pretty clear that they were at the very least looking very carefully at this individual and, may have believed that he had something to do with it. And we can talk about why that might have been in a moment. But yeah, that is sort of the big clue that the public and police are initially running with. Who is this mysterious man in the back alley?
So what we do to kind of find out who this mysterious man is start looking at additional footage, right? We try to start connecting the dots through other surveillance cameras or ring footage or whatnot. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. You don't just say, well, here's our video, we got it. It's very much in the vein of, let's try to see if we can literally follow this guy to wherever he ended up with as much surveillance footage as, I mean, I think a lot of people understandably have concerns about a surveillance state or living in a surveillance state nowadays. I think in murder cases, we can all hope that these people would be caught, though. And in this situation, that is what happened, in the sense that footage was able to be kind of linked together. And I think in addition to that, there was also like vehicle tracking data of some kind ultimately used. And they were able to track a specific vehicle from Columbus, Ohio, all the way to Rockford, Illinois. And they were able to basically drill down on what vehicle that was and who it belonged to. And it belonged to someone whose name had, I believe, already come up at that point in the investigation as to who could have wanted these nice people dead. And that was Michael McKee. And that was Monique's ex-husband. So when you're seeing that, I mean, that has to be a huge aha moment for the detectives.
Yeah, and I find this so disturbing when the risk factor is a relationship from years and years before. You like to think that if you make a choice that doesn't pan out for you, it's not something that's going to affect the rest of your life. Monique was in a marriage with this person who clearly had some serious issues, and he just couldn't let go. And because of that, that had just such a horrible effect on her future. And that's just so upsetting to me that one man can exert so much control over the life and happiness of someone who once loved him.
You know what I found to be really upsetting along that line is they had been divorced like 10 years. 10 years. And they were only married, I think, less than a year. Is that right?
Yeah,
8
less than a year.
months.
Something like that.
And they talked about this case at CrimeCon. And I heard a lot of people saying, well, it was 10 years. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. And I'm here to say, yes, it does, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But when you have a stalker, an abuser, someone like that, some of them never let go. I had my abuser like 6 or so months ago start tracking me on social media. It's been 20 plus years. And he always said, revenge is a dish best served cold. So I just want people to remember, like, the time doesn't matter. It can be 5 years, 10 years. Like, the risk is there, unfortunately. What have you learned about Michael McKee in addition to they tracked his vehicle, back and forth, and I'm presuming that this video kind of fits his stature, looks like him, could be him. What else did they discover about Michael?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll just add, I think what you said, we've heard the same thing about this case. Why would he do it 10 years later? But people should remember your experience, and people should remember that you are a well-adjusted, probably very nice person. I'm not saying any of the listeners are perfect, but they're great and they're listening to Strong Enough, which means that they have great taste.
They're trying to get better.
But you're trying to put yourself into the mentality of a stalker, of an abuser. Right. Like, they're not thinking like you are, You're thinking, well, I would just kind of get over it at some point. But like, that's not really the kind of person who's becoming a stalker and an abuser.
Yes.
So
yes.
Like, let's not mistake our empathy for like how someone with that warped viewpoint actually thinks. So what are they finding about McKee? Well, they're finding, and this is another thing that I think works against this, where people kind of assume, well, why would he throw his life away? McKee is not, he's a physician. He's actually a vascular surgeon. And I mean, my dad's a doctor, love the physicians. But I think people have this idea of like, well, if you're a physician and you work this hard to become this kind of specialized surgeon, you must have something on the ball. You must be intelligent. You must be good at life to a certain extent. And therefore, why would you want to throw away your like high-paying, prestigious, well-regarded life over a relationship that's been over for many, many years? And to that, I would say, again, we're not thinking like an abuser. We're not thinking like a stalker. And even men, even people who are very nominally successful can be also predators, can be also abusers, stalkers. And so we shouldn't just say like, well, you're making a lot of money, so you have to be a good person. Like, no, you can be a very bad person as well. We've had physician serial killers,
right.
Not, let's get out of the kind of almost classist mindset. And just start thinking like, this is coercive control. This is a documented situation of abuse. And then looking at it from that framework, I think is a lot more helpful. So what do they find? Well, one really bizarre and frankly intriguing wrinkle to this case that I'm still eager to learn more about is that at some point there's some indication from police that they believe that on December 6th, 2025, this guy, McKee, was on the property. Now, it's unclear to me whether they think he was in the house or like on the curtilage, as I believe the word used. But this is a very bizarre thing that I want more answers about, because police are indicating that he was there at the time. But then we also hear that Spencer and Monique at that time are in Indianapolis. They're at the Lucas Oil Stadium where the Big Ten championship was taking place. IU won, woo. Gotta love it. Go Fernando. But I mean, they're
Mandalorian.
Yes, the Mandalorian. We love him. that they're like, they're enjoying time with friends. At some point, Monique leaves and Spencer explains there's something going on with her ex-husband that upset her. So again, some people have like wondered, like, did she get some kind of like alert that he was on the property? But then people pointed out, then why wouldn't they call the police?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that at the time he's doing this, he's sending her some kind of taunting or scary messages, maybe? I'm just speculating here. I don't know what happened, but this is something where police are noting, like, he's kind of escalating and circling closer on some level. How much Monique and Spencer knew that is not clear to me, but it's a very scary situation. And it breaks my heart that this woman is like living the dream. She's got these beautiful kids. She's got a wonderful husband, enjoying time with friends. I mean, OSU lost that day, but I mean, it could have been a great day otherwise for them. And instead, she's having to worry about what this weird loser's doing. And I don't know, just on some level that really upsets me. So that's one piece of information that police have released. In addition to that kind of vehicle information where they were able to track his movements. Another thing that's come out is that they've seized a firearm that at the very least is consistent with the evidence at the scene. I imagine we'll learn a lot more about that during a trial.
There was an incident at a house down the street sometime before these murders. Now, there was speculation that could have been him. And my theory, if it was him, is he was potentially testing out police response time, noise levels, things like that. What did we learn, if anything, about that incident and if that was or was not McKee?
No, it's a great question. And I've had the same wonder of like, was this a test run? And if it was a test run, I mean, that is just so coldly calculating. Like, think about that. That, like, you can't make the argument then that this is the heat of the moment or he just randomly does this. That is someone really being very methodical about what they're doing and very intentional. For my knowledge, we don't know a lot about whether it's connected or not, but there's certainly been a lot of focus on it. And I would certainly hope that if it is, there is the evidence there that the prosecution would emphasize that, because I think that really proves the level of stalking going on. Like, if you're literally doing a test run to go kill people on the
Right.
block, I don't know. It's horrible. It's really horrible. I wish like we could just throw the stalkers in prison before they kill, but we have a very reactive legal system in many regards, as you know, because you've been through it yourself, and also just as a police officer, like, we can't be like, well, you seem like you'd do a crime and then like lock away the key. But at the same time,
I don't like how you look. So.
Yeah, you look pretty sketchy. And we don't want to do that. But at the same time, I feel like I don't know. I would love to see more done with stalkers and harsher penalties for stalking and more resources for stalking victims, because like, this should never have happened. And it seems like on some level he was like escalating. Whether or not that incident that you mentioned is actually connected, I don't know. It seems really bad.
I think we're going to learn a lot from cell phones. I feel like there was communication of some sort, where he was reaching out, taunting, whatever. And you mentioned stalking. I really think the laws need to catch up to technology and all the new ways and things that people can do to track another person. I have a friend who her ex gave her like a Bluetooth speaker and had connected it somehow so she could track this person wherever that Bluetooth speaker went. And it's like, people don't even think about things like that, but that's stalking. But back to these guys. So you said no forced entry. I have some theories, but have we learned anything concrete about how he potentially got into the home?
I know there's been some really interesting reporting, I believe, from News Nation, where they actually kind of like went to the scene and were kind of speculating about like, okay, could he have gotten in this way or that way? I've seen speculation that, I mean, this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because it's so early in the morning. But then again, I'm not an early bird, so maybe the Tepes were different. But like, yeah, like Maybe the dog was let out to go to the restroom, like in the backyard or something, or laid and like he forced his way in. Like we've definitely seen murders where that's occurred. I've seen things where, he was maybe able to like hack the security system in some way. You can never really totally rule out the idea that someone just made a mistake, and like left a window unlocked or I mean, there's a lot that could be, I don't want to say for sure, but it's an aspect of that's interesting to me because it also speaks to some level of planning. Like if you show up without a plan and you don't know what you're doing, you're probably gonna have to kick the door in.
Right.
Yeah. Break a window, like get in however you can. If you're showing up and you're smooth enough, for lack of a better term, to just not even have to leave any signs of forced entry, like you came prepared, in my view. I'd be very curious to hear what your take on that might be.
So my thought is if they had keypad locks, which a lot of us have now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are guilty of using codes that other people can easily guess. Birthdays, anniversaries, kids' birthdays. And they reuse codes from home to home. So could she have been so set in her ways that she's like, my code is always 1, 2, 3, 4. And he knew that. Or kid's birthday. So I just want to make my PSA random numbers for any of your codes. Make them numbers that nobody can guess. And then when you move, get a different one. Like always change it just to be safe. So I'm wondering if he was able to get in with the keypad, perhaps.
Yeah, we've even seen speculation in other cases I recall where like police will be asking the widow or the widower, like, did anyone else know their passwords? And it's like, have they changed their passwords since the contentious divorce? And
Right.
it's often no. And I get why, because it's really a pain in the butt to have to do that. But as you said, if it's something where maybe someone who might intend to do you harm can guess them, or they're the same as when you were with that person, there's a safety factor there. And they may not even have thought of that. And I imagine they probably, just from the sense I'm getting, like they didn't necessarily know the level of danger they were in. Although
Right.
Monique was scared of this guy. Like people who knew her were very clear on that. And I believe they brought that to police's attention pretty quickly. She was scared of him, but there's a difference between being scared of someone and feeling like they're imminently going to come kill you.
Absolutely. There's a huge difference. And I can understand her having that fear, but not, I don't want to say taking it seriously, but not taking it seriously. Like he's way over there, I'm here, we're living our separate lives. But how you introduce this couple, I think, is why he did this, if he did this. But that's why, because they were the all-American family. Handsome guy, pretty girl, totally in love, 2 kids, great job. That had to burn up McKee, who was facing a malpractice lawsuit from another state and, just had some stuff going on, it sounds like.
Well said. I mean, absolutely. I think he saw their happiness and was jealous and couldn't deal with it. I think absolutely that was a motive in my view. And again, innocent until proven guilty. I recognize that. Although in this case, the facts are bad for this man,
They are.
And what you said, I mean, I'll tell you, like with malpractice suits, those are not really uncommon.
That's not a big deal, really.
But it can be a stressor, and it can, like, it's something that's not necessarily like uncommon, but if you are feeling, a certain type of way about the rest of your life and that's also going on and you don't have a happy family life that you crave, even though you're not willing to treat people with respect and kindness, but you still feel like you deserve that. You can see it's like, she's not allowed to be happy without me. She's not allowed to move on. She's not allowed to win. She won the breakup. I'm this brilliant surgeon, but she won. And I can see that curdling and getting worse over time rather than better for a certain type of personality.
As she continues to win, and his personality would take that malpractice lawsuit as a loss of control Because if he is abusive and controlling, then to him, how dare they? How dare they drag me into this? Kevin, I want to hear from the attorney brain, because we got some bad facts here, as we have pointed out. Where can Michael McKee go for a chance here? What's he got?
Judging from the facts that are out there, he has a pretty tough road ahead of him. Because if you take what is out there seriously, and I think you have to, it's his vehicle. There's a person on the video footage who looks very much like him. Maybe it's not possible to positively ID him from that video, but it's certainly consistent with him. And when you combine all of this with the pattern of harassment and what have you over the years, I think he has a pretty tough road ahead of him. And frankly, if I was his attorney, I would be investigating the possibility of what kind of deal is out there.
I also want to say, like, this shouldn't matter. I'm not saying it does, but from the public's viewpoint, he's not sympathetic. They are.
No.
You know, like, they just seem like nice young parents who are trying to live their lives and move on from what he put her through. And he's a weird creep who's obsessed with her and won't leave her alone. I mean, I feel like for a jury, I feel like for people who, you know, women don't like that. And I also think men are like, oh, you killed Spencer too. Like, they might be able to relate to Spencer and Monique much more than this guy who's like wealthy, but acting really evil by all accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, you know, it's like, and I think a lot of people also look at someone like him. It's like, wow, you study so hard to help people as a physician, as a surgeon, and you just like are so awful that you couldn't just like let her go her own way and just work on yourself or work on like it's like he doesn't have like this sob story really that I'm seeing, at least, that where it's like, oh, well, he had a hard life and this is what he went through. I mean, again, everyone has their struggles. Everyone. Like,
right. I don't care if he had a hard life, to be honest with you.
No,
I mean,
I don't either.
sorry, dude.
Like you messed up too badly here, and like you killed. Like, it just bothers me so much. Like, they're just, again, like any victim dying is horrible. And like, I try to empathize with all victims, but these folks, it's like, they weren't doing anything wrong at all. And like, it just, they didn't deserve to like die in the night in their own home in fear of this creep with a gun.
And talking about him being a surgeon, you know, a lot of those guys do have the God complex, which would play into his whole personality of power and control, you know, being that vascular surgeon, which is a big specialty. So maybe that's just an extension, again, of who he really is.
Hashtag not all vascular surgeons. No, I'm just, but yeah,
right. Just this one.
You're right, though. I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but I know my dad has joked when we've talked, like, you know, he loves he's an anesthesiologist, so he's like, we're the best specialty, and like he'll
oh, they're my favorite.
Yeah, his job was just giving comfort to pregnant women with epidurals, you know. But like, he would be like, I'd be like, oh well, like, okay, in the cafeteria of all medical specialties, like in high school, like, who are the cool kids, who are the jocks? And he's like, oh, the surgeons are the jocks, you know. Like, so he's like telling me, like, you know, they're very like, you need to be somewhat arrogant because you're literally cutting into people, like, you know, and like, that's not necessarily a bad thing, having that confidence. Maybe confidence is a better word than arrogance. You know, you're confident in your abilities. It's physical. You have to work with your hands. But the thing is, you know, it could attract, like any job, like you have police officers who are attracted to it for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. And
correct.
With surgeons, you definitely have that too, I think. I mean, there's definitely a stereotype for a reason. And that doesn't mean all surgeons are bad. Most of them are lovely. But you can get the God complex. You can get just this, like, I am the master of people's fates. And it can be a sign of like, okay, this is a personality that is disordered and is not healthy and is maybe capable of bad behavior. And it bothers me when I see people, though, like, say things like, well, he was doing well, he was rich, why would he do this? And it's like, that's wrong. Like, this happens. No one is safe from coercive control. You could be really rich, really poor, black, white, Hispanic, whatever. Like man, woman, you could be a victim of it, and anyone can perpetrate it.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most important things we have mentioned today, in addition to the whole stalking thing. But yeah, nobody is exempt from this. It doesn't matter how you grew up, what you're doing, where you live, how much money you make. You can be a victim or a perpetrator of coercive control, domestic abuse. Like it doesn't segregate based on who you are. So it frustrates me when people say those things. It's just like depression, or when people commit suicide and it's like, oh, but he had everything going for him. Clearly not. Clearly not.
Yeah. And like, it's impulsive. Like, you can't really be in someone else's mind and know what's going on there. And certainly in this case, I mean, I will say in this case though, Kevin mentioned like what the tough uphill battle he feels the defense would have. For me, I really think it would have to be like the state has vastly overstated its case, or the firearms is really inconsistent, or, you know, there would have to be something that we don't know about that's like a curveball. The facts as they stand are pretty devastating. And, you know, we would have to be like almost misinformed, I think, on some level by authorities, or there's something where the defense is able to knock something down. I think that, I mean, he is a good attorney. I mean, he has got an attorney with a good reputation, I think, in the area. I think, you know, she's definitely gotten acquittals in the past, but it just feels like this one would be difficult to see him.
Tough.
Yeah, wiggling out of this one.
Any other evidence or things that we haven't talked about that you think are important to the case?
I think it's interesting that at this point, in terms of the legal, he's pled not guilty. No bond has been set, and I know there were filings for like the defense asking for a bill of particulars. They're like, the indictment's vague. Give us all the details about why you're charging our client. You have
Because he did it. Can't they just write that? Because he did it.
Prosecutors is like, come on now.
Right.
You know,
really?
You know, one thing that was interesting, there's been, you know, requests for discovery and them kind of explaining what they're doing. They're talking about like LiDAR reports at the scene, which I guess is mapping out the scene in some way, like what they do with crashes. You have there's NIBIN reports, so there's going to be some level of forensic firearms examinations, as you can imagine, going into this. Intriguingly, there was a guy named Brian Johnson CV. They didn't really indicate who that was, but I did find that there was a criminology professor of that name, so I'll be curious if he might be in the mix, or might be another Brian Johnson. Sorry to the wrong Brian Johnson if I got that wrong. But we're kind of like on the outside looking in at this point, since it is going to trial, and it seems it's gotten a bit tight-lipped. But yeah, you have a lot of different discovery going back and forth. You had continuances where I think the trial was scheduled for earlier. It's not really clear to me when it's going now. I think Kevin and I were talking the other day, like, you know, there's been a waiver of the right to speedy trial, which means the defense thinks it needs considerable more time potentially to go through all this discovery. And I think what we were talking about is like, could there be a plea deal in this? Like, does this guy really want to go to trial?
It seems like if he did, I mean, that's just a slow guilty plea. If everything that we know, if everything we think we know is true, then it seems like he would just be prolonging the sentencing, basically.
I would think so, you know, and I mean, but then again, for a personality that is coercive and controlling, you know, the idea of like pleading, you know, like then you have no choice. The power's out of your hands.
And also a person with this type of personality might see the trial as an opportunity to smear the victim and humiliate them by trying to get some information out that he feels is unflattering to them.
Yeah. Oh, the Tepes were this or that. Maybe they were into drugs, or, you know, like that kind of sort of thing. I mean, I would hope that a judge would keep a handle on anything does not have evidence backing it, but I could imagine someone wanting to try.
Well, and this is the kind of guy that might testify because he thinks he can win everyone over.
Yeah. yeah, and I would, God help any defense attorney in that position, you know.
I mean, it'd be great for us.
Yes.
It would be great for us.
It would be great for us because we could really like, it could be a very good example of like what we're talking about and raising awareness of this kind of issue.
Mhm.
But from the perspective of the defense, I think you'd just be like, oh goodness, like you're not going to come across well, but I can't say that to you because I don't want to offend you. I mean, we personally, I will say we're weird. We went to Columbus recently, Columbus, Ohio, for a really amazing book festival where like it restored my faith in like people reading. So thank you, Columbus, Ohio.
I think I saw where you were there.
Yeah, we posted about it.
It was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. Like I was moderating. It was kind of funny because I was moderating. Kevin was on the panel. So like we had an inside man. It was just odd, but it was great. But when we were there, we wanted to go and kind of pay our respects. Like we like to go to a place where if we're covering a case, where did this happen? What can we notice about the surrounding area? I'll give you my observations, although I don't think they're particularly novel and they've probably already been done by other people. But where they lived was very much like an up and coming neighborhood, like maybe kind of in the process of gentrification, maybe like some of it kind of looked a bit run down, but it was getting, like you could tell it was getting nicer. People are moving in and trying to take care of the neighborhood and maybe grow it back to restore it or whatnot. And like these big modern looking houses kind of up a bit from the road. We kind of walked around and walked in that back alleyway that I mentioned where the garages are. And just you see things like this in Indianapolis all the time. Columbus actually really reminds me of Indianapolis, weirdly. So fun fact. But we went back there and, you know, it's all very kind of wide open. I didn't come away with any like determinations of like, oh, he must have gotten in this way. But, you know, you could see, especially if your theory pans out and he may have known some of the codes, you know, you could see someone kind of being able to slip in there in the early morning hours without really anyone seeing anything.
Is that house still unoccupied? Or could you tell?
I couldn't tell. I know it was sold after the murders. I mean, as you can imagine, but I don't know if someone is currently residing there. I didn't see any evidence of that, but you know, we didn't want to get too up all in their business because if there are people living there, we don't want to scare them.
Who buys that house?
You know, I remember in my community, there was one murder growing up in my hometown. And I remember my dad and I talking about it. He's like, yeah, we could have bought that house instead and we would have gotten a really good deal on it. So he was kind of like regretting that he didn't go for the murder house in town. Not because he's a morbid weirdo. He's not. He's a lovely gentleman. But
it's for the deal.
Yeah, for the deal.
You know what?
That would be my dad.
That's me. I'm like, I don't know. He and I both have this like weird Great Depression mindset where we're like, we got to save all the money, you know, like, and so and like, I get it. It's a nice house. It would be freaky for a lot of people to live there. But I think if it's something where you're just like, this is a tragic occurrence and, you know, God help these people. And I could see some people, you know, you could be sympathetic and be like, this is awful, but still say like, that doesn't necessarily imbue the house with anything.
Right. The house is innocent of all this.
Right.
So
a creepy guy in the house was the problem. But it would freak me out a little bit, I think, at first. But I think if I got a good deal on it, I would be like, I wouldn't seek out that house though. Let me say that. I would not like, I think some people might take it too far and they actually want to get a house with some tragic history. So I hope it wouldn't, like, that's kind of weird to me. But the other side of it of just being like, well, you know, and I think it did sell for less actually.
Kevin, are you in or out for the murder house?
I'm in. Get a good deal. Why not?
We love a good deal.
I love a good deal. I'm going to go look up and see. I'm going to Zillow it and see what it sold for. We got to know now.
Yeah, I was like, I just remember laughing because I was like, yeah, we have one murder house in town. And that would have been wild if we'd grown up in it, but that did not happen. So I did not live in a murder house growing up. That's not why I'm weird. I'm weird for other reasons.
As far as you know, you're not living in a murder house now.
No, this is an anti-murder house. No one's getting murdered up in here.
Well, I'd hope not now.
No. Yeah. Hopefully it'll stay that way. We ticked off too many people with our crime coverage that
the Delphi people are coming.
They might, you know. I don't know. We've ticked off a lot of people.
Where can people find you guys? So they need to be listening to the Murder Sheet. It is amazing. Where can they find you guys?
We're on wherever you listen to podcasts. We have not been very good about updating YouTube. That's the one exception. But anywhere else you listen to podcasts, we're on there. And we have premium episodes on Apple and on Patreon if anyone likes that, getting early, ad-free, and exclusive episodes. But everywhere else,
my Patreon.
Love
my Patreon.
Hey, those are fun people. I was so nervous about that at first, but I'm like, oh, now people are like, I'm weird and parasocial with you because I feel like I know you. I'm like, yeah, but I'm kind of the same way with our patrons. So I mean, I can't really criticize anybody. But yeah, we're kind of wherever, and we enjoy kind of hearing from people. We cover a lot of different cases. So I mean, our motto is, if one case isn't for you, maybe you'd be interested in this other coverage. Yeah. I think a lot of people use this as a smorgasbord where they're just kind of like, they come in and they're interested in one thing. Sometimes I think they listen to everything, but we try to cover a lot of different cases, including the Tepes.
I kind of listen to everything because it's,
Thank you so much.
I just love it all. I love it all.
You're in the elite tier.
That's right.
Any appearances coming up?
Oh, gosh. I think we might do something on the Burger Chef murders in November in Greenwood, Indiana. But I think other than that, we've been pretty quiet and keeping our nose to the grindstone.
Awesome. Áine and Kevin, you guys have been amazing. Per the usual. Love you guys so much, and I can't wait to have you back again soon.
Oh, we love you too, Claudia. Thank you so much.